Hello friends, my name is Amogayam. I am working as assistant professor in English in GFTCW Chikmalapur. Today I will be dealing with session number 37. The topic of the session is Introduction to the author RK Narayan. This topic comes under 4th Sem BA General English. So let us head into the introduction of the author, that is RK Narayan. Life of RK Narayan. RK Narayan is one of the best known Indo-English writers. He created the imaginary town of Malgudi, where realistic characters in a typically Indian setting lived amid unpredictable events. RK Narayan was born in Madras on October 10, 1906. His full name is Rasipuram Krishnaswamy Narayan Swamy. Narayan was raised in Madras by his grandmother and an uncle. His grandmother inspired the young Narayan, and through which he got the passion towards language and for people. Narayan graduated from Maharaja's College in Mysore in 1930. He got married in the year 1934. The name of his wife is Rajam, but she died due to typhoid in the year 1939. But he never got remarried again. He had a daughter called Hema. This is the life of R.K. Narayan. Let's look at these points once again. R.K. Narayan is regarded as one of the best Indian English novelists. In fact, he is one of the pillars, is one of the three pillars of Indian English novel. The other two pillars are Raja Rao and Murkraj Anand. All the three famous novelists, in fact, brought the Indian English novel into the world arena. They made the Indian English novel famous throughout not only just India but throughout the world, and R.K. Narayan is one among them. He is responsible for creating the imaginary town of Malgudi, and if you have seen Doordarshan in the last lockdown, when the first lockdown took place in the month of June last year, in June 2020, at that time Doordarshan telecasted its one of its oldest serials called Malgudi Days. It was directed by Nagabana, Shankar Nag and Anand Nag acted in it, and Master Manjunath. So all the Karnataka people acted in it. Anand Nag, Shankar Nag, Master Manjunath, and then it was directed by Nagabana. So these all the Karnatakas, they came up for serial, and the serial's name was Malgudi Days, and this serial is based on R.K. Narayan's Malgudi. So he has created the imaginary town of Malgudi with realistic characters. So in the town of Malgudi, one could see realistic characters which are in a typically Indian setting, and they lived in the middle of some unpredictable events. So, if I come to the life of Narayan here, he was born in Madras on 10th October 1906. His full name is Rasipuram Krishnaswamy Narayan Swamy. Narayan was raised in Madras. He was brought up in Madras by his grandmother and uncle. Actually, it was his grandmother who inspired him towards literature. She gave the inspiration to him to go into literature. She inspired him to look at people and language. He was graduated from Mysore. Maharaja College is one of the oldest colleges in India. He was graduated from there in 1930. He got married in the year 1934. The name of his wife is Rajam, but she died due to typhoid in the year 1939. But he never got remarried. That is quite rare in those days, but he remained uh, he remained like that till the end of his life, and he has a daughter called Hema. So this is about the life of RK Narayan. Now let us look at the literary career of RK Narayan in the next slide. Literary career of RK Narayan. Narayan wrote his first novel, Swami and Friends, in 1935. I was just talking to you about Margudi Days, and the serial Margudi Days focused on Swami and his friends. So this novel was adopted into a serial. The serial talks shows the childhood the childhood of Swami and his friends, what they do. Actually, Swami is a young child played by Master Manjunath in that serial. So Swami is the key important character there. And Swami and his friends, they do lots of mischiefs and they get punished also. So all these things can be found in that novel. So in that novel, he created the city of Malgudi, a literary microcosm. Microcosm means a community. So he created a small literary community. So it's a community created through his literature. Then critics compared this creation of Malgudi to Ekapatwa County, and that is again one of the famous counties of England. More than dozen of novels and many short stories that followed were set in Malgudi. So after this, whatever and I wrote all those things, all the stories, novels were set in the place called Malgudi. So all the stories, all the novels are based in Malgudi. All the characters of all his novels and stories are based in Malgudi. So Malgudi is central for him. Narayan's second novel, Bachelor of Arts, was published in the year 1939. It marked the beginning of his reputation in England. The novelist Graham Greene was largely responsible for getting it published in England. Greene has called Narayan the novelist I most admire in English language. So let us look at these points once again. And as I already spoke a lot about Swami and Friends, and now I would like to talk about how critics compared this creation of Malgudi, a small South Indian town, to William Faulkner's one of the literary creations. He also created a similar town, an imaginary county, yeah, Yaknapatwa County, and similarly, it was as famous as that. And more than dozen novels and many short stories are based in Malgudi from now onwards as far as Narayan is concerned. Narayan's second novel, Bachelor of Arts, made him famous in England. The novelist, one of the famous novelists of English literature is Graham Greene. He was very much impressed by the work of Narayan. He got this novel published in England. In fact, he called Narayan as a novelist he admires the most in English language. So Graham Greene was able to recognize the potential in RK Narayan. His fourth novel, The English Teacher, was published in 1945. It was partly autobiographical, concerning a teacher's struggle to cope up with the death of his wife. In 1953, Michigan State University published it under the title Grateful to Life and Death. The financial expert and is the another novel of Narayan, which is also published with it. They were Narayan's first books to be published in the United States. So thus, I would like to talk about these points once again. Narayan came up with The English Teacher, that is his fourth novel, which was published in the year 1945. It was autobiographical in nature, so it talks about his own life. It talks about the teacher's struggle to cope up with the death of his wife. In reality, also in his real life, also Narayan was going through that struggle. His wife Rajam was dead due to typhoid, and he could not come to terms with that. In 1953, Michigan State University published this novel along with The Financial Expert, one of the other novels of Narayan, and thus they become the first novels to be published in America. The State University of Michigan comes under American government. Thus, he also became famous in America. Subsequently, publications of his novels, especially Mr. Sampath, Waiting for Mahatma, The Guide, The Man-Eater of Malgudi, and The Vendor of Sweets, established Narayan's reputation in the West. So he then onwards he started writing more and more. He wrote Mr. Sampath, Waiting for Mahatma, The Guide, The Man-Eater of Malgudi, and The Vendor of Sweets. All these novels established Narayan's reputation in the West. They highlighted the reputation he had in the West. The Guide is one of the important novels of Narayan. Many critics consider The Guide as the masterpiece of Narayan. It talks about a tourist guide who seduces the wife of a client, and then he prospers and ends up in the jail. The novel won India's highest literary honor, and it was adopted for the off-Broadway stage in 1968. At least two of Narayan's novels, Mr. Sampath and The Guide, were adapted for the movies. So thus, many critics consider The Guide as his masterpiece. It talks about Raju the Guide and Rosie. It is a story between Raju the Guide and Rosie, how he seduces Rosie, a wife of a scientist, and then he becomes very rich through her. She is a very famous dancer. He uses her dancing skills to become rich. Then he leaves her, and finally he was sent to jail. And this is the story of Guide. Many people consider it as the greatest novels written by RK Narayan. It won the highest literary award of India. It came the Sahitya Academy Award, and then it was also adapted for the off-Broadway stage in 1968. At least two of Narayan's novels, Mr. Sampath and The Guide, were adapted for the movies. These two novels, that is Mr. Sampath and The Guide, even the financial expert was made into a Kannada movie, that is Banker Margaya. So I can say that Mr. Sampath, then The Guide, and the financial expert were adopted for movies. Now we will come to the last part of the video here, that is revision. RK Narayan was born in Madras on October 10, 1906. Narayan graduated from Maharaja's College in Mysore from 1930. Narayan wrote his first novel, Swami and Friends, in 1935. In it, he invented the town called Malgudi, a literary microcosm. Narayan's second novel, Bachelor of Arts, which was published in 1939, made him famous in England. Graham Greene, one of the famous novelists, called him as the great novelist I most admire in the English language. In 1953, Michigan State University published The English Teacher under the title Grateful to Life and Death. Many critics consider the guide, which was published in the year 1958, to be Narayan's masterpiece. It is a story told in a complex series of flashbacks. So, with this, the video ends. In the next video, I will be talking about the Talkative Man. So, this is a novel you have for your syllabus. So I will be talking about Talkative Man in the next video. Thank you. Thank you very much.